Hello and thanks for joining us on Chicago Tonight. I'm Brandis Friedman. Paris Schutz is on assignment. Here's what we're looking at. Striking Loretto Hospital workers say a deal has been reached. An exclusive interview with the head of the union. A big win for preservationists. Landmark status for St. Adalbert Church is one step closer to reality. Chicago's historic Bud Billiken Parade celebrates 94 years this weekend. A look at what to expect. A Michael Jackson musical visits Chicago. We sit down with some of the creative team. And how a DuPage County exhibit paying tribute to Andy Warhol seeks to give the public a new perspective on the late artist. And now to our top story tonight, a WTTW News exclusive. After 11 days, a deal has been reached to end the strike at Loretto Hospital. That's according to the union representing striking workers. Joining us now for his first interview since this deal was struck just less than 2 hours ago is Greg Kelly, president of SEIU Healthcare Illinois, which represents the striking workers. Greg, thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So what we know so far about this deal that's been reached, we understand that it involves increases to minimum rates for all titles, across the board increases, year of service increases, and a Juneteenth holiday. Greg, walk us through, some of the key elements here. What did it take to get here?
So, as you mentioned, today was our 11th day on strike, and we did reach an agreement with Loretto Hospital. And we are really pleased with this agreement. As you mentioned, we got raises for all of the job classifications, and almost as important, we got minimum rates that were increased for all job classifications. And so we're pleased with the agreement. Obviously, 11 days of striking is challenging, and it has all kinds of struggle. But our members are really excited, and we're prepared to present that to them for ratification.
What can you tell us about the rate increases? How significant are they? Can you give us a number?
So they are significant. I can't give you specific numbers, but they are certainly numbers that are in line with what we've asked for. They make Loretto far more competitive than it was before the strike. And we think it's really just a first step in really making safety net hospitals like Loretto good places to work that really will help make these communities better. And Loretto is a staple and an institution in Austin on the west side of the city. And we know that because of the low wages, that there were staffing challenges. And we think that this contract is a really big first step in addressing that problem.
Greg, what would you say was the key to reaching this deal?
I think the key really is, of course, first, the workers who sacrificed so much for these 11 days. And many of them sacrificed so much more even before the strike. But we got so much support from community leaders, faith leaders, elected officials. Reverend Jesse Jackson today showed up and offered his support and encouraged the parties to come together. Our mayor, Brandon Johnson, did the same thing. Congressman Davis really helped push us all together and really made us get together to hash this thing out. And we couldn't be more appreciative of all of the support that we received.
Greg, tell us about some of the workers here. Who are they? What are the jobs that they perform at Loretto?
So we represent about 200 workers in a bunch of different job categories, everything from food service to certified nursing assistants. We even represent nuclear med techs, janitorial workers, you name it, pretty much everything but registered nurses, with a heavy emphasis on service workers. But the range of workers really covered the gamut of the hospital. And we wanted to make sure that we'd left no one behind in this agreement, that we made sure that the lowest wage workers saw improvements, but we wanted to make sure that we respected higher wage folks, and then also made sure if those that sacrificed so much for so many years at Loretto also received some amount of fairness.
Now, one of the issues that you all had been highlighting was the high turnover rate of employees as a result of the relatively low pay. Do you think does this deal bring Loretto Hospital employees, up to parity with other hospital workers in Chicago? And by that, could it keep more workers on board at Loretto and less turnover?
We think it certainly is a really good first step in doing that. I think it's important to remember that Loretto is a safety net hospital, and there are a number of safety net hospitals that we also represent. So they're part of a larger healthcare delivery system that for so many years really hasn't got the type of funding and support that it's needed. And so we are excited that this agreement is a first step towards solidifying that workforce, stabilizing that workforce so that the hospital can really do its mission. And I'm hopeful, one of the things that we talked about at the end today was hopefully working with management to make sure that hospitals like Loretto get the type of funding that they need so that the workers can get the support and wages that they need, but also so that community can get the type of quality care delivered that's so desperately needed in Austin right now.
Greg, what was your reaction to the hospital and how they were able to stay open during these 11 days?
Well, we know that hospitals, as a matter of course, they rely on temp agencies. And as we've argued throughout, instead of paying temp agencies, they should pay those workers who've been so dedicated to them for so long. And so we know that's sort of the traditional way in which hospitals, even without strikes, have managed to fund or at least staff themselves. But we believe those are really bad management decisions. They should use the money that they spend for agencies, not just Loretto, but hospitals and nursing homes for that matter, and pay those workers who come every day a decent wage, and their need for staffing support will be lessened. And so pay those workers and you'll see more stable staff, and the need for temp agencies will be lessened.
Greg, we've got about 30 seconds left. It sounds like striking workers no longer on strike, and they will need to vote on this. What's next in about 20 seconds?
We want to make sure that safety net hospitals like Loretto, St. Bernard, Roseland, and Mount Sinai are supported so that those workers can do the work.
But, Greg, when do you think voters will be able to, sorry, not voters, when do you think workers will be able to vote to ratify?
Starting tomorrow.
Starting tomorrow. Okay, we have not heard from the hospital just yet on this, but I'm sure we'll be hearing from them down the road. Of course, we'll share that with viewers here and on WTTWnews.com or WTTW.com/news. Greg Kelly, SEIU, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Up next, dozens of state employees under investigation for paycheck protection loan fraud. That and more right after this.
Chicago Tonight is made possible in part by Alexandra and John Nichols, the Jim and Kay Mabey family, the Polk Brothers Foundation, and the support of these donors.
And now to some more of today's top stories. Day 2 of testimony in the trial of Michael Madigan's former top lieutenant, Tim Mapes. Today, the prosecution sought to illustrate that Mapes, as chief of staff, had nearly as much power as Speaker Madigan himself. Democratic State Representative Bob Rita testified to Mapes' authority and even said he had a sign on his desk that quoted The Wizard of Oz, saying, quote, "Nobody gets in to see the wizard, not nobody, not no how." Rita clarified the wizard referred to Madigan. Mapes is charged with making false statements to a grand jury investigating sweeping bribery charges. 37 employees at a state-run developmental center have been fired, resigned, or face disciplinary action after a state watchdog says they fraudulently received government loans through the COVID's Paycheck Protection Program. The employees include mental health technicians and frontline workers at the Ludeman Developmental Center in Forest Park. The employees allegedly sought loans for outside businesses they supposedly ran, but did not actually exist. It's part of a massive state inspector general investigation into workers at state agencies that have received fraudulent PPP loans. Chicagoans are just days away from learning who the next police superintendent will be. Mayor Brandon Johnson has until this weekend to choose from 3 finalists selected by the Community Commission for Public Safety and Accountability. They include Madison, Wisconsin Chief Sean Barnes, CPD's Head of Constitutional Policing and Reform, Angel Navales, and CPD's Counterterrorism Chief Larry Snelling. Johnson can also set aside the 3 finalists and restart the search, though he's given no indication that he plans to do so. First, the unveiling of the butter cow, then the opening of the state fair.
3/4 of our state's geography is farmland, and the state fair is a time for us to recognize and appreciate the 72,000 farm operators that make our state one of the most agriculturally productive in the nation.
Governor J.B. Pritzker and other officials cut the ribbon on the Illinois State Fair in Springfield today. Amusement rides opened a bit later than planned since safety inspections were delayed because of the rain yesterday. This year's entertainment lineup includes Alanis Morissette, Tim McGraw, and Nelly. State Fair runs through August 20th. And they're off. Thousands gathered in downtown Chicago today around the river to witness the annual Rubber Duck Derby. 70,000 rubber duckies were dumped into the river at the Columbus Street Bridge this morning to raise money for the Special Olympics. The event also featured games, performances, and prizes as onlookers waited for the winning duckies to cross the finish line. Up next, a former church in Pilsen is on its way to landmark status. That's right after this. The prayers from some preservationists have been answered. Earlier in the week, the closed St. Adalbert Church building in Pilsen cleared an initial hurdle for landmark status from the city. On this week's Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, we speak with Blanca Torres from the St. Adalbert Preservation Society and 25th Ward Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez to learn more about the significance of the initial landmark status. In a preview of that conversation, guest host Alex Hernandez asks the question, why did it take so long for the century-old church to get to this point?
We got to remember that especially the previous administration, this issue came to for a discussion. Unfortunately, we did not get the political will. There's a lot of interest. Unfortunately, there's a lot of this. St. Adalbert is not the only empty parish. We have almost 100 empty parishes within the city of Chicago that the archdiocese still does not know what to do. So the landmark designation has implications, we understand that. But we also know that there's dozens of churches that are also empty on the west side and the south side of the city. And we need a plan. We need a plan that includes parishioners, that includes the residents, that includes a conversation, what are we going to do with these empty parishes? We cannot exclude, or worse, sold these to developers after residents, parishioners have built this with not only their labor, they have been volunteers, but also with the subsidies of their own property taxes. So we do think that it's important that we have a conversation around St. Adalbert as a landmark to bring the investment that is needed to preserve the church, but also a larger conversation with archdiocese.
Definitely. Blanca, what is your connection with the church?
Well, I've been a lifelong parishioner of St. Adalbert. I grew up there. I went to school there when the school was still open. So, and my parents were, major people, movers and shakers in the church there. My father was basically the caretaker, and my mom was the CCD, and she did a lot of work within the community. And there in our community, I know, the Polish community was the people who built the church, but also within the last 50 years, it has been the Hispanic community with some Polish people, of course, who were there. We had posadas, we had all our cultural.
Right.
And all our cultural events were held there. I mean, it is so paramount to the community to have these cultural touchstones, these cultural landmarks that make it a community.
And you can watch the full conversation on Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, which airs Friday at 5:30 and Saturday at 6 p.m. Up next, we speak with some of the creators behind the Michael Jackson musical. But first, a look at the weather. Last year, it was a hit on Broadway. Now it's opening a North American tour in Chicago. MJ the Musical tells the story of Michael Jackson in flashback. Tellingly, it begins in 1992 as he prepares his Dangerous tour. This was the year before his sexual abuse cases. Hetty Weiss sat down with Tony Award-winning choreographer Christopher Wilden and the young actor who plays the man in the mirror.
What's kind of amazing is that, as far as I know, Michael never really had formal training.
Right, he trained with some great pop and lock teachers and hip hop teachers in LA. He had mentors. One of the largest facets of his gift was to be able to actually take from the greats and understand how to take a shape from Fred Astaire, or a movement in the feet from James Brown, or even, you know, a turn or a leap from Baryshnikov. He was a huge ballet fan.
Which came first for you, singing or dancing?
The dancing came last. Acting, I would say singing came first, acting came second, and dancing outside of my kitchen while making breakfast definitely came last. So this role was a big undertaking for me specifically.
Talk a little bit about that very interesting interconnection between Michael's music and his dance style.
It all has to be connected, you know. Certain things don't click for the character until everything's happening at once. And sometimes the dance informs the voice, sometimes the voice informs the emotion, and sometimes they all work together, and I almost black out when I'm performing, and someone's like, "How did that feel?" And I'm like, "I don't even know."
Talk a little bit about the anger issues that come through in the dance.
Oh, there is a violence to Michael's
but it's a very
accuracy.
Sophisticated violence.
Each move is so explosive and so accurate. I think it's the dynamic, the explosive power of his movement that can make me really only think that it was coming also from emotion and frustration.
I want people to understand that at that time, especially in a Black community, there weren't really resources for mental health. And obviously we take after our parents to some degree. I truly think he did the best with what he had.
We focus very much on the creative inspiration and the beauty of Michael's creative imagination within the framework of his relationship with his brothers, with his mother, with his father. We do get to go back in time and experience those great, sort of iconic Jackson 5 moments. The complexity lies sort of interwoven with the beauty, and I think the goal was always to make something that helped people understand some of that complexity actually is what made the art so truly great.
That's a superstardom we'll never see. That's a level of superstardom we'll never see. I don't think we as humans are meant to see or feel that level of pressure from the world.
MJ the Musical opened last night at the Nederlander Theater in the Loop. It runs through September 2nd. And we're back with more in just a moment. Stay with us. What does justice for Emmett Till look like for you?
Justice for, in our sense, is to serve humanity.
Black storytelling is a huge part of our culture, and so we wanted to make sure we gave young writers the opportunity to share their stories.
I think it's important that people feel empowered and find a light within themselves, whether it's art or not, but if it can be sparked with an idea, I think that's the type of things that change the world.
Believe it or not, the first day of school is just around the corner. And that means so is Chicago's historic Bud Billiken Parade. It's the largest African-American parade in the U.S., drawing in nearly 300,000 people and spanning almost 3 miles. That's according to the Chicago Defender Charities. This year's theme, Parading in Peace, Block by Block. Here's a preview.
The community has let us know how excited they are to come out. This year, we have an amazing Grand Marshal, 2-time Grammy Award-winning poet laureate Jay Ivey. So we're really excited about that. At the end of the parade, it leads into Washington Park, where all of our sponsors, community organizations, everybody comes together to support our students, to prepare them to go back to school. So they get backpacks, there's free haircuts for the boys, free hair braiding for the girls, all kinds of school supplies, resources for families. So it's a family event. There's going to be entertainment. We have a stage there. So lots of good stuff happening. The South Side and the West Side coming together. We always have barbecue going up and down the street. There's 4 generations of families come together, and I'm the 4th generation to run the organization. We are also working together with My Block, My Hood, My City, Jamal Cole. And so that's why our theme this year is Parading in Peace, Block by Block. And we just want to let people know that, what we're doing, we're celebrating and coming together. It's all about working together, families come together, and peace in our community, block by block. We were inspired by the whole My Block, inspired by the fact that we have to pay attention of what's going on in our community. And so we decided to come together. So year round, we're constantly working. And that's why we say Bud Billiken 365, because it really is that. As soon as we finish this parade, we're working on the next one.
The parade is this Saturday. It stretches down Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Drive through the historic Bronzeville neighborhood into Washington Park. For more information, please visit our website. An exhibit in DuPage County is paying tribute to the late great pop artist Andy Warhol. The Intimate Showcase aims to provide a deeper context for the famed pop artist's life. Arts correspondent Angel Ito recently took us inside the Macinich Art Center at the College of DuPage. Here's another look.
Repeated prints in vibrant colors, Studio 54, and personal photographs. These are just some of the elements included in a one-of-a-kind exhibition honoring the late, great Andy Warhol.
Andy Warhol's personal life, that was always kind of hidden. We have photos from that personal life from people close to him, different connections. I think anytime we can humanize someone like Warhol that is like this mythic character, I think it is important and valuable because then you make that real connection to them.
Now on display at the Mac Art Center, the exhibition was born from a personal collection of more than 150 of Warhol's portraits, known as the Andy Warhol Photographic Legacy Project.
This exhibit of photos called Andy Warhol Visual Diary gives hints at his process, right? You see the number of different photos he took before he decided one he would make a print or a painting out of.
Now, with more than 200 Warhol pieces ranging from silk screens to some of his more recognizable prints, curator Justin Whitty hopes this exhibition provides a different perspective to the creative that started as a commercial artist.
He was always very aware of how he could use his presence or his personality to help gain attention and to be at the forefront of different movements. He was not born into affluence. He was born to a working class immigrant family in industrial Pittsburgh in 1928. And he learned early on the importance of working really hard and how to make sure that he didn't lose a lot of the things he earned in life. And I think a lot of people can relate to that.
A lot of Warhol's influence is said to come as a result of losing his father at a young age and how that impacted his view of life and death. It's a major theme seen throughout his work.
You see throughout his work, there is an understanding of mortality and kind of immortality wrapped together. So we often think about the soup cans or the Brillo boxes, elevating the everyday. But he also did Marilyn. And when you think about that in context of the soup cans, it's like, well, we also create celebrity and we sell that as a product. But he also did pieces like the electric chair or car crash or pieces from Death and Disaster, saying we also sell tragedy. And we sell them all on the same level, all as entertainment to be consumed. People maybe sometimes think of Warhol in a simplistic manner, but he was reflecting our culture in a lot of complex ways that he doesn't always get credit for. And I want to make sure people who come to the show start to have a better understanding of that.
For Chicago Tonight, I'm Angel Ito.
And the Andy Warhol Portfolios, A Life in Pop exhibition continues through September 10th at the Cleve Carney Museum of Art in Glen Ellen. That's part of the Macinich Arts Center at College of DuPage. And that's our show for this Thursday night. Don't forget to stay connected with us by signing up for our daily briefing. And you can get Chicago Tonight streamed on Facebook, YouTube, and our website, WTTW.com/news. You can also get the show via podcast and the PBS video app. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 for Chicago Tonight Latino Voices, 7 o'clock for the Weekend Review, and 10 for Chicago Tonight Black Voices. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm, and proud sponsor of programming that offers advice and strategies to enhance the physical and mental well-being of fellow legal practitioners in Illinois.